some jazz today. Yes, you gon' learn, you gon' learn, you gon' learn. It was just past 1, 2, 3 man with a 4, 5 step to the door like, oh my gosh, just throw that cash in a back bag, run around the back.
Hey everybody, it's Liz from the Lemon Bowl.
Vince from Irie Kitchen.
And welcome to the Irie Lemon Podcast.
Okay, well here we are, episode 27? I've already forgotten. 28? Vince, we're still alive. You weren't sure if we'd make it to 28. Here we are.
We're on 28. Let's see if we can make it to 32.
For real, though. All right, it's a very, very special episode. We have a special visitor in the house, our friend Anthony. Why don't you say hello, introduce yourself?
How's it going, guys? I'm Anthony. Happy to be here. Episode 28. Made past the curse of 27, so that's good.
Exactly. So why don't you start off? You guys, Anthony is so smart. We have so many exciting topics to get to with him. But before we get into it, tell anyone who might not be familiar with you, tell us a quick give us your elevator speech.
Elevator speech. So my name's Anthony. Moved to GR probably about 4.5 years ago. Originally from Michigan. Went to college, dropped out, started my first startup company, worked in the music industry as well, helping scale a company called Life and Color Dayglow, and then doing some talent management for artists as well. Ended up going back and finishing college a couple years after that, and then did another startup, some other things in between, and then came to GR to work for Spectrum Health on their innovations team. So I do that by day, and then by night I have various side projects kind of all across the board. Yeah, I mean, work's a pretty big part of my life right now, but I like to do things outside of that, stay active, eat a lot of ice cream. That's pretty much it.
Stay active. You guys, this guy runs like every race in the world. I'm not supposed to say Ironman out loud because your recent Ironman was postponed, but you guys, he's an Ironman. Don't kid people with the... All right, before we get into it, I want to quickly read a review. You guys, first of all, thank you so much for leaving these 5-star reviews. We really appreciate them. They help us get this podcast in front of other people. So Vince, can you read us our review of the week, please?
Yeah, so our review comes from, I'm guessing, Katie Bright7. She says, addicted to listening. Love listening to Liz and Vince talk about business and life. I impatiently wait for each week's episode to go live. Katie Bright7, thank you for the love. Thank you for the 5-star review. Thank you for your attention and your listening. Appreciate it.
Sweet. Okay, Anthony, you ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, you guys, Anthony gave us a few suggested topics to pick from, and Vince and I are so greedy. We want to talk about them all. So is there a topic you want to get into? Vince, do you have a preference of where we start?
No, I don't care. Just throw it out there. You can start in the middle and beginning.
So why don't you start wherever you wish, Anthony?
I think probably something that's just relevant, speaking of starting, is having something before you start networking or doing podcasts or creating content or putting yourself out there. I think a lot of times people believe that they have to have that one punchline that's going to win somebody over in a sentence or be super relevant to somebody and impress them before they go out and want to start networking. That's not the case. And I really encourage people to get that out of their head. I think you need to just start by understanding what the landscape is, what is going on around you, things that you're interested in. And you don't have to have that one punchline that is going to wow people over. I think whatever you're interested in, you can find mutual things to talk about. And shared interest, and you can learn a lot. So I think that's, something that's huge. Do you guys feel that same way, or like people that you've talked to, do you see that happening as well?
Yeah. I mean, in my experience, so I come from a sales background. So when I was 21, I went right to work for Marriott in sales, and there were a lot of networking events. And the biggest thing that I learned is that you shouldn't go into a networking event or anything, whether it's just a casual like cocktail party or even a Zoom call with colleagues, like to try to sell. It should just be strictly focused on relationship building. Because if you build a relationship, it's going to be a lot easier to then down the line sell to them. But I think so many people, like in my world, they think they need to have a cookbook to sell, or they need to be launching a new podcast or launching some big project. And I've been on many podcasts before. I was just like, no, nothing to promote. Just I'm here doing my thing. Like, you don't have to always be pushing and selling. So I think that you need to focus on the value of networking is not just selling, it's building relationships, which anyone can do and everyone should be doing all the time.
Yeah, I second that. I like three things. I think first off, from my experience, all business is done based off relationships. Like, someone likes you, you have a way better chance of getting the business. Like, I don't think people understand that how much of the work can get done by millions of other people. Like, if it's a photo or video, that's subjective. There's like a billion people that I can hire to do that. If I like you to do my photo and videos, then I want you. And on top of that, it's like, oh, I like your perspective, your creativeness. Well, that's all things I like about you as a person. So I think that's something that's interesting. I think the second thing is there's kind of the second and third thing is kind of 2 or 3 routes you can take. One route is like, if you don't have anything, right? Like, you don't have a business, you're just trying to network, you're just trying to meet people. I really think you should double down on making friends and learning and understanding, like Anthony said, the landscape, because you don't have anything there. So be happy to be there. Be happy to be part of that event. Try to connect and network with people and make friends, or at least understand where the opportunity is. And the only ways you do that is by having authentic conversations, right? Like, if you don't have that, then you completely miss the opportunity. Now, if you do have something, like, and you're kind of nervous or you're working on your pitch, I'll go to, have you mastered your craft? And do you have confidence? If you have confidence in what you're doing, right, and you're being authentic, and again, you're building relationships, it should just be easy for you to flow and have a conversation. Because if you're a great architect, and you believe that you're a great architect, you can get a Pioneer Construction, a big construction company, to pay you to like design a building for them because you believe that you're good. So I think there's like a lot of things you can do, but those are the 3 things I think that worked for me, and I've seen work for other people. And if you're not, there's also a lot of people with like the hot idea for the month, right? It's like cryptocurrency or it's whatever. They don't really know it. They don't really believe in it. They're just trying to get money for it. It's like, we're not stupid. Like, the people you're asking money for or support, they're not stupid. Like, they got to where they got by having some smarts to them, right? So you're not gonna like convince anybody or finesse anybody. I know we hear like the Facebook stories and like, but Zuckerberg's a genius, and like like you're a kid down the street that skateboards for fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't mean you can't build an amazing company. It just means that you don't have to pretend to be somebody you're not.
Yeah, and I think just like social capital as a term as a whole, building up social capital is good. And you don't have that ask, like Liz said. It's more so just getting that understanding. Like, when I first moved to GR, I could count on one hand how many people that I knew here. And so I started with who I did know, and then went and took meetings and just wanted to hear people's stories and their experiences and where they're coming from. And everybody will always tell you their story. And you don't have to have it. So like, going into those, I didn't have this narrative prepared or like my ask or anything like that. It was more so just to get an understanding and start to build that social capital up. So like today, 4.5 years later, I try to take 5 meetings or so a week. I don't want to, meeting sounds too formal, like tea, coffee. Now it's like Skype or Zoom. But just to meet new people and like keep that going. And now we have more time than before for some of us in the evenings and stuff like that. So I would just try and take advantage of that and try to build that social capital up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that this is definitely, taking it to today's specific current situation, this isn't a time to sleep on networking. And I think a lot of people probably are, maybe their businesses depend on networking, and networking events as we knew them are obviously, many of them are canceled right now, but that doesn't mean you can't be networking. To your point, I mean, Anthony and I really started talking when it was the shelter in place. We were supposed to meet the week of it. And I'm a little sad because we were going to go out for sushi. So, but you can build relationships. I mean, I have an online brand. So all of my coworkers, many of them I've never met. And many of those relationships were built purely on social media. And now, luckily, we're all getting, it's funny. Zoom's been around, you guys, for more than a couple months. But it's funny how now we're suddenly, and myself included, my husband's been trying to get me to use Microsoft Teams because we pay for the license in our package. And of course, now I'm all about it. And he's like, wait, I was here a few months ago, Liz. But, whether it's house party app or there's so many different things, you guys. And I think that, to Anthony's point, most people I think agree in certain times of the day you have more time than you ever, like for me, it's when my kids are asleep, I have no social plans. So I have a lot more time in the evenings to you can still network, you guys, even though the events are canceled. So, all right, next topic. I'm so excited for these. All right.
Before you go to the next one, what are some things, this could be like this going over again, but what are some things you guys have seen or people have tried to network with you that you don't like? And I'll start.
Like networking do's and don'ts?
Yeah, yeah, I'm not one for rules, but don't do vague asks. I hate when people just ask me a vague question or not a good question. And it's just dude, you don't even care about what you're doing, or I don't know, I just feel like it's just, what do you want me to do? Hey, something very vague. And it's just you're cold emailing, cold calling, or just want to meet some. I think you should at least not be as vague. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure Anthony, when you guys talk to you, just hey, we should do this. I want to talk to you about this. It's not hey, sushi question mark. That's weird. You know what I'm saying? And yo, can we grab coffee? I'm I'll even buy your coffee. And I'm well, dude, what do you want to talk about? And it's dot. I think that's weird. You know what I'm saying?
You get a lot of meetings on a weekly basis. I will admit, because I have a bit of a public persona, more people reach out to me than I reach out to people I don't know. So as someone that reaches out, what are your best tips for that? And then I can also share a few examples of quote unquote pitches that I don't care for.
Yeah, I think if it's super, self-interest, where they're hey, I want to leverage your network. You can read through it of somebody wants basically you to make a bunch of warm introductions for them and you don't even know them. And that is fine if their intentions are good. I'm all about it. Usually at the end, I'm hey, go through my LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. If you see any connections, let me know. I love what you're doing. I'd love to make an intro for you. But if they have a strong ask like that, right off the rip, then and they're naive in their approach, meaning they don't understand the pieces that are necessary, or I don't believe they'll be able to follow through, then that's kind of my big pet peeve. So I'll try and work with them on that and challenge them on it and be hey, listen, here's a great example that's relevant right now, something that I get reached out to every day. So being in healthcare during the day, right now, PPE or personal protective equipment like masks and things like that are a really big deal, and they're really hard to get. So everybody's all of a sudden selling masks that isn't in healthcare, right? Because they're trying to make 5 cents on a mask. And so they'll reach out to me and be hey, I have this idea that's going to save your health system a ton of money, and I have access directly from China and all these things. I need an intro into all these health systems that get me in touch with the VP of the supply chain, and I'm going to make you a bunch of money. It's okay, first off, how are you doing? How'd you get involved in this? And, I know all the know of all the manufacturers, where their capabilities are, and I ask these simple questions and they don't have them. So that's a big pet peeve to me is before you go and try and promise something to somebody, have the facts in line and don't be naive in that approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another tip that I've probably talked about in the podcast, but it is related to networking. If you are trying to network with someone that you want to learn from, I much prefer, and now I require, that if you want to pick my brain or meet for coffee. See, the thing is, as a mom, meeting for coffee either requires a babysitter or childcare. Me leaving my house it takes a lot. And as a business owner, when I'm not working, I'm not making any money. So you're also costing me money with that meeting. So I can't just fill my day with the meetings, but I love to help others and teach and share. So what I like to do to make the time as like useful as possible is I ask them to email me before the meeting 8 to 10 questions, specific questions that they want to ask me. So that does two things. It gives me time before our meeting to like think through the best answers and give them specific examples and maybe visuals I can compile. And, you know, sometimes when you get to a meeting, you lose your train of thought. You might be a little nervous. You might get distracted. People show up at the coffee shop, and before you know it, the hour's done and you only asked 2 questions. So by having them put the 8 to 10 questions in writing ahead of time, I find that not only is it a better use of my time, but really, 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 it's a better use of their time. They're gonna milk me for more of what I'm worth by doing that. A little bit of like, honestly, that's like 10 minutes of work ahead of time. So that's something I really recommend to anyone that is being asked to pick their brain, and whether that's a Zoom call or a phone call. And the other thing too is that it eliminates the people that aren't serious. So, you know, half the people, maybe more, they never get back to me again. And that right there cuts out the people. And don't get me wrong, I'm down to go out for sushi and wine for fun. But like, if you're wanting to pick my brain, let's make it worth your while. I think I'm a big fan of like don't sell yourself short. You can get a lot of value from our meeting if you want it. Again, this is someone that's looking to do it. Typically, it's someone that wants to be an influencer or a blogger, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah, it's like I guess like the biggest pet peeve is like come in with good intentions.
yeah.
Like, people that have bad intentions or ill intentions, like that's a huge pet peeve.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not stupid.
Good
And
question.
if you're on the other end of it, just don't treat people that way. Like, just be a good person. It'll work out for you.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing you had mentioned is projects versus startups, which leads me to the question, Anthony, what's the difference between a project and a startup?
So time and time again, you know, you hear that, what are you working on? Oh, I've just, you know, I'm working on a couple of startups. And it's like, okay, first off, if they're real startups, you probably aren't working on a couple, unless maybe like you're an advisor. That's just not realistic. And a lot of times, you know, you ask again, Yvette, how many employees you got? Oh, just me. Okay, cool. Do you have a product out? It's in beta, or we're working on it. Okay, cool. Like, do you have any customers? No, but we have like a potential pipeline. It's like, okay, so you might have an LLC or a C corp or like an official entity established, but really it's a project, you know. And I think that a lot of people can get discounted by others that they're trying to get their time, maybe advice, connections, things like that, that might be chapters ahead of them or longer down the line. And they say, yeah, I'm working on this startup. Whereas they could just say, hey, I'm calling it a project. It really puts it into perspective as far as where they're at in their journey and showing that they're not naive. They know that it's not a startup yet because they know what that requires. So it just helps to build quick credibility or really lose credibility depending on how you phrase it. So that's why I tell people like, yeah, I'm working on some side projects right now. They all have official entities and, you know, partners and are a little bit down the line, but you know, they're not fully in market yet. I'm not doing it full time or anything like that.
I love that. Yeah, I've definitely never worked on a startup ever in my life. Vince, do you have any follow-up questions to that?
No, yeah, I mean, like, I agree with everything Anthony said. I just think that, like, what helps, like, a lot of, we're in such a hustle and entrepreneurial culture right now. Like, everybody I know has a freaking business. You know what I'm saying? And, like, someone who's only worked for himself and only had businesses, I'm like, kind of where Anthony was going into, I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, how are you outside right now? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you really working on it? And they start using buzzwords and business is very simple. Like, you know, there's a few ways of how you actually make money. So like, I'm always like, and Liz's been around me when I talk to people, they get frustrated. I'm like, okay, but how do you make money? Like, what's your business? Like, you know, like, it's always a project. Like, it's an idea. And they get mad. I'm like, it's okay. Like, not everything you do in life has to be this big, grandiose thing. Like,
yeah,
when I was like, I wasn't focused on like, this is going to be the next like Chipotle or McDonald's. Like, the goal was like, get a sign, open a small restaurant in Athens. Like, and I did it. And so I was like, you know, like, check, like, and then you want to grow it and franchise it out, you can. That's a different strategy. And then, so for me, it's just like, you know, if it's a project, an idea, and we live in such, again, in a hustle, ADHD, everyone's good at everything, everyone wants to do everything world, which I think is great. I don't think that's a bad thing. I do like the project versus what actually I'm working on mentality, and you don't have to front. Like you don't have to walk around acting like your startup is making a whole bunch of money, because if it was, you wouldn't be talking, like you'd be working. Trust me.
Yeah.
Like we're not, again, like goes back to what I said earlier, we're not like dumb, you know what I'm saying? And I do find it amazing for someone who, like, I love jam and then make 5 cases of jam for like my neighbors and my friends. And now I've just put a sticker on it and I want to sell it online. And then boom, 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 have questions. Like, that's great. Like, that jam thing could actually like go to like a serious business, you know, if you wanted it to be. And so I think for a lot of people, just like, the small projects can end up turning into startups and then end up turning into like a real business, or not. You know, I love the process of doing testing and exploring. So I'm not against either or. I'm just saying that, like, you don't have to have a business plan and a brand style guide and like all these things, right, for like everything without like taking action. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, cool, you want to open this thing? That's dope. Like, are you gonna do something about it like today, tomorrow, Wednesday? Like, I just want to know like when you're gonna like start, and from there I can like help you or navigate, like help you like with strategy. But yeah, that's how I kind of look at it. I just think it's just like, it's great. I love projects, I love startups, but like, please, like, don't set yourself up for cramming your schedule too much, and just don't set yourself up for looking like a complete idiot around other people. You know?
Yeah.
This is the perfect segue, because another topic that you have is create it until you make it, not fake it. And I think that this is a real good segue to that. But the one more thing I'll say though about the last topic is I think a lot of that is ego getting in the way, and I think also maturity. So I think as people mature, as they as they get a better hold of like their ego, I think that does tend to like die down a bit. You know, if it gives you guys any comfort, not a lot of friends in their late 30s, my age, are going around talking like that. And my friends that are super successful, they don't talk about money. You know, if people are talking about money all the time, they probably don't have much of it. So that's another indication.
Yeah. And you got to let other people talk about you more than you talk about yourself. Like,
Yes.
it's way more powerful having people talk about you, for better or worse, right?
Oh yeah.
I think, you know, you hear a lot of times fake it till you make it. And, you know, as Vince is saying, like, a lot of people will front and say that they're show that they're doing this on Instagram or wherever. And they're trying to basically backfill that. I think it's, you know, the perspective to have is create it until you make it. And what I mean by that, it kind of ties in with like projects. It kind of ties in with the other theme of having that punchline to go out before you start networking. Like, if you're interested in something, pursue it, ask questions, be vulnerable, and put stuff out there. Like, the internet is a place where people will critique you all day, and that's free. So it's, you know, put it out there and let people do it. I wanted, for example, like last year, I wanted to learn, I had student loans at the time, and I wanted to learn how much I was actually going to be spending on interest. And then I wanted to learn if I was to put X amount more dollars in on X amount of time basis, reoccurring, how much I would actually save in interest and how much that would shave off. Well, there's an amortization table. Didn't know what that was, but I started going on YouTube and playing around with this calculator and building it out in Excel. So I got better at Excel. And then I thought, hey, this kind of matches up with my payment. I need someone to validate this. There's a ton of experts, me not being one of them, out there. So I put it out online and asked people to beat it up. And so within a matter of like, I don't know, half a day, I got, you know, every mortgage person and banker and like all these different people within my networks that are like, hey, you need to adjust this, or this is good, but you could do this. And so I'm like, okay, how do I do that? And they were more than willing to help. And so then like, yeah, now it's good. Now like update people. And so then I said, hey, if anyone wants to use this, do it. I created a Google sheet, and then I ended up sending it to like over 1,500 people to help with like their student loans. And so I could have just basically sat there and like, you know, not worried about it or whatever, but I wanted to get better at something. So I put it out, even though I'm not an expert in it. Like, I didn't have that punchline or background or anything like that. And I think we're seeing that with people just trying stuff on social media as well. Trying new things like you guys with the podcast, right? Like you could have sat there and be like, yeah, I know how to do a podcast. Or I want to do this podcast and never did it and wanted to wait until you were like super far progressed in it, but you entered in and got it started. Now you're on episode 28. So
Yeah.
that is like create it till you make it in terms of my perspective. Just encourage people to create it till you make it. Don't worry about faking it or fronting it.
You know what else that is, to Vince's credit, is that at the end of the day, if you wait for everything to be perfect to start, you'll never start anything. And, you know, our very first episode, one of the microphones, the holder didn't work. I mean, if you wait for things to be perfect, like my blog, when I started it, I didn't have a photographer. I didn't have Lightroom. I didn't know how to edit photos. I was taking photos on an iPad on my like yellowish, and I would take it after we actually ate dinner in real life. So it was like warm and dark out. Like it was not ideal. And I'm certain that the recipes weren't written in the clearest way, et cetera, et cetera. So I think at the end of the day, don't be so afraid of making a mistake, and don't be so afraid of what other people think, and just start and do. And it's so much easier to learn and to perfect once you're in action versus waiting to get it all done ahead of time. And then, okay, now we can start because it's perfect now, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that because I think all plans go out the window day one.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I thought in theory.
Right.
You know
How's everyone's 2020 plans going on right now?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
like how's everybody's 1 to 2 year, 3 year plans happening? Not good, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So the thesis stays the same, like this is what we want to do, but like it always changes about how you go about it. And
Yeah.
I love the create it till you make it thing because I think it goes back down to like paring it down to something simple like project or startup. Like Liz tells a story for 3 years she just wanted to post healthy recipes on the internet. 10 years later, it turned into a business. But 3 years ago, in that first 3 years, it was just that.
Mhm.
You know, like you can have an Instagram account where you're just posting food, posting shoes, posting whatever, and you don't need a business model. You don't need to tell people this is what you do for a living. Like, just let it be, right? I love Anthony's example, like amortization and like the calculator is like perfect. Now, 1,500 people. If you really wanted to, you create a website, turn it into an online business, charge people $1 to use the calculator, or make money off ads and have like a whole business out of it on the side. He didn't want to. He just did something for himself and he shared it with 1,500 people. Like, I love things like that. I'm into those things exactly as well. Like very small. I just want to do this thing. We're just starting out. I enjoy cars. Like I want to get into cars one day. So I'm probably gonna start like a fake customizing cars and putting it like online. And like if that ends up being a business, great. If it ends up being a cool Instagram account, great.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
it's all great. It's all good.
Yeah. And like, you know, you going out and doing that on the theme of create it till you make it, you will unlock opportunities that you didn't know existed, or you could. Not saying it's guaranteed, but you could unlock opportunities that you didn't know existed that you'll get in more of an authentic way than if you were to try to fake it till you make it, and you'll never reach that because it wasn't authentic. So like embracing the process and sharing that process within the journey and story, super valuable. And you know, I mean, a ton of people say it, but it doesn't matter if you have 6 followers, as long as you know you have that consistent approach with those intentions, like, and you're just putting content out and you're creating it. If you're doing it right, it will come and it will work its way out.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Okay. Next topic. This is a good one. Chapters are more important than age, correct? Is that what you meant? Greater than,
Yeah.
more important? Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people traditionally have said, oh, I have 20 years of experience in this industry. Resume says this, you know, you hear that saying all the time. I define like perspective on people by their chapters. So if you're reading a book, for example, and you read the cover, you know, you're gonna have some context as to what it is. And let's say that you start that book today and someone else starts it 6 months from now and they finish it before you. They went through all the chapters. As you read through those chapters, you get more context and you get a deeper understanding as to the story and what's going on. And you know, it doesn't matter how long it takes you, it matters that you did it, usually. Some things do just require time, but I like to look at people and define them by their chapters in terms of their experience to something. and actually like doing it instead of just reading about it. Like doing it firsthand, is like 80% of it. Reading about it, I feel like, is 20.
I know. Like I got a hospitality degree, but Vince opened and ran a business. I read about opening a restaurant. Vince opened the restaurant. Like it's so funny. Like I went to classrooms to talk about running a restaurant.
Yeah.
You ran a restaurant. So guys, if you want to open a restaurant, ask Vince, not me. But to your point, like I have the bachelor's in hospitality. I have the minor in marketing. But I think so many people, and hopefully I feel like that has started to change in the last, it's certainly a lot better now than it was 20 years ago. But such a good point.
Yeah, and I think just like look at that approach, because one person, like chapters aren't holistic representative of one person. It's like there's categories within a person and where they're at in different chapters for different aspects of their life: business, personal life, athleticism, whatever, faith, whatever it may be. They're in different chapters of their life. So it doesn't, when you're looking around, don't just look at somebody from the outside and judge them based off of where they're at. Like actually get to understand which chapter they're in for that specific area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that breakdown. I think that's super smart, and I think that like I'm definitely gonna steal that.
Please do. Like
I feel like especially when I interview people, I don't care about, and Liz can probably, I don't care what you've done, what school I really don't care. I'm always like, Liz, like, are they good? Like, are you like,
yeah,
what's the last thing you did? Like, understand that you did this and you did, okay, cool. Like, have you posted on Instagram? Okay, well, cool. Can I see your account? Oh my God. Okay, great. Like, I agree with that. Like, there's something to do in whatever part, whether experience, business, relationships. Like, what chapter are you in? And that doesn't always like correlate to age. And I think it is cool because I know a lot of young people. I'm 22, are younger than me, who are like leagues ahead, smarter than me. Like book smart. They've done it as well. I don't really compare, but I'm just saying like it's cool. Like that kid has like a lot of experience by 19. You know what I'm saying? And like even with me, like when I was running around the city 19, and like people used to ask me questions, I'm like, I don't think you guys understand that I've only done this. Like I haven't done like anything else. So like I'm not saying I'm like the world expert on this. I'm just saying for the last X amount of years, I've only done this thing. So like you probably listen to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm in it like every single day. So I love that. I love that like example. And I think for anyone listening too is like, you probably have so many different chapters and experience and things, and like that's where you can find your value for your next business idea, maybe for you want to work out, whatever it is. I love that. I think that's like huge. Like Anthony's done Ironmans. Like what? He's leagues ahead in like experience and probably travel and working out. Like that'd be something to learn from and talk to about. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what does it take to like get ready for an Ironman? You know what I'm saying? That's cool.
Right.
You're not 40 years old talking like, yeah, like I prepped for 20. Nah, like you've done it, put the hours in. That's cool.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Next topic. I'm so excited for this topic. I feel like this is gonna be my favorite. Okay, splitting your time into thirds. And I think you probably mean by the day, by the week, by the month, So talk to us about splitting your time into thirds. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah. So just building off of chapters. So you have people within categories, so whatever you're interested in, you choose your own categories, right? Let's say fitness and business and personal life. Those are the three I'm going to go with. Hopefully those are the most relatable. So, professionally, I like to split my time into thirds across all categories, but a third of my time goes to people that are chapters ahead of me. It doesn't matter their age again, right? But people that are chapters ahead of me so I can learn from. Another third of my time is spent with people that are in a very similar chapter to me within each category. So I can give and receive advice. And then the third is for people that are chapters behind me that I can help uplift and give advice to. And so when we look at, professionally, there's people that are many chapters ahead of me. So I'm 28 years old. There's people that are 24 and are chapters ahead of me that I reach out to and get advice from. However, and then like personally, like I'm not married, don't have kids, anything like that. my cousin, for example, is getting married. He's engaged. Like, he's younger than me. He's chapters ahead of me. If I ever go down the line and need advice, there's plenty of people that are younger than me that I can go to in that regard. So I think, and same with fitness. Like, fitness wise, I have a long ways to go. It's something I enjoy doing, but there's always more you can learn. And so there's people that are like really far ahead of you that you can learn from, people that are in a similar journey that you can also learn from, but also help out. And then there's people that are getting started that want to aspire to do what you're doing, and the path because you've already went there. So you can take those 10,000 hours you put in and kind of boil it down to 1,000, not to shortcut it, but really to give them that direction so they're not scrambling as much. And everyone's situation is different and their journey is different, but that's how I like to, split my time into thirds, is people that are chapters ahead of me in a similar chapter, and then behind me.
Yeah, that's so smart. I wonder if, do you find that, like, we talk a lot about keeping your cup filled and filling your cup and making sure that, if your cup isn't full, you can't be pouring into other people's cups. So I wonder if by having that balance of your time, your cup remains full so that you can help others, as opposed to only spending time filling everyone else's cup up with someone that might be a chapter behind you. I think it's probably good to have a balance of who you're around to keep your cup full.
I think so. Like, what fills people's cups is different, right, for everyone individually. But for me, like, I get a lot of fulfillment and really charged up by helping people and seeing them. Like, so if I go and accomplish something, like, let's say marathon, I cross the finish line for a marathon. I did that for myself. Like, I have this certain feeling of accomplishment and pride. But then if somebody sees that I did one and then says, hey, I want to sign up for this marathon, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to get started, that gets me really excited. And what gets me more excited than me crossing the finish line is seeing somebody that I helped out for like 6 months cross the finish line and just see their reaction and their emotion. Like, so I think it's a little bit of a cycle in that regard as well. One area I need to focus on a little bit more is probably like receiving advice and getting mentorship. It's just like, I feel like things are kind of all over the place. And so it's like, I really have to be strategic. I'm like, hey, can you help me with this thing? Hey, can you help me with this thing? It's not like one person can help me with all things. So that's probably an area of opportunity for me.
Yeah, I have to give a plug right now, actually, to a friend of mine. So I'm actually, this year, one of my goals was to have people that are, to have more time with people that are a chapter or two ahead of me. And I joined a mastermind, a 6-figure mastermind. So everyone has an online business making over 6 figures. And that was just nice, because then at least right there, it kind of eliminates people that, like, a lot of times you go into networking events and then you just end up answering everybody's questions the whole hour because no one like even started a blog yet. So I do want to give a shout out to anyone that's listening that is into racing and running like you are. One of my friends, Amanda, who's in my mastermind, her blog is called Running to the Finish. And her niche is helping runners train for big races. And she just published a book, and of course her book tour was unfortunately canceled. But if any of you are listening that are into running, especially it's her audience is not necessarily people that have never run that want to start. It's for people that have done some running and they enjoy running and they want to learn how to train for races and such like that. Runningtothefinish.com. Check it out. I think it seems like a lot of people in your network, Anthony, probably would benefit from her business. And again, it's a blog, you guys, so most of our content is free. It's just so many great resources and things like that. But to your point, the mastermind was my way to kind of, because I'm like you, I think my cup gets more filled by helping others. I'm an Enneagram 2, so I love to help. It's almost my Achilles heel. But I think it's just good to have balance. And also, how can I keep helping others if I'm not learning and gaining and growing from people ahead of me? And the mastermind was a cool way to do that. And it's just luckily it was a once a month virtual thing anyway, so it hasn't had to stop with what's going on. So that's been great. A lot of what I do has been virtual, my entire businesses. So luckily, it wasn't like a meet in person thing. But any of you guys listening, I highly recommend start a mastermind. if you're not getting invited into one, create one. Start one.
Yeah, like to both of you guys' point, as I'm listening, like I suck at what both of you guys talked about. Like I'm really bad about managing my time and who I spend time with, and I'm also very bad at like knowing what like fills my cup up. You know what I'm saying? So as I'm listening to you guys, I think that's a very like what both of you guys said, very smart strategies. Like to your point, Anthony, like I don't ask anyone for questions. Like I'm now learning. Like I don't ask for help for anybody. Like never. I've never asked for help. Like it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So like it's great when like you get help and people know how to help. But like it's also weird and you're like, wait, like you're supposed to ask for help, or like I've always was the guy or that thought like you had to do everything yourself. Everything you had to do, if you wanted to see it in the world, like you had to do it yourself. And so like I've helped a lot of people though. I've helped so many people because like they're better than at me at asking. There's like locally, there's a lot of businesses around town that like I've helped, and I'm like, it's so good to see that they're still running, they're still doing great, and it's just like, oh, that's cool, you know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely trying to learn how to like ask for help. The funny thing that happens when you don't ask for a lot of help, people ask you for a lot of help.
Yeah.
Like which is like interesting, and it's like I'm always honest with people. Like if I don't know, I'll just tell you like I don't know. Like,
Yeah, which is
like,
good because
yeah.
most people just like always feel obligated to give an answer, even if it's wrong. And so I respect you for not. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. So correct me if I'm wrong or out of context on it, but like that feeling, you started your business at how old?
I started the restaurant. I was like 19.
19, right. So by the time you were 21, you were many chapters ahead of other people that you were probably surrounded by or like your friends, right? And so it was just really hard to probably relate in a lot of ways. And because of that, they asked you for advice, but like it wasn't like you were going to go ask them on what you should do next step after you've been open for 2 years in your business, right? So like you now became that guy and that go-to resource because you had that experience so early on in your journey. And now you're surrounding yourself with people that are older because they're just in a similar chapter, right? Do you
Yeah,
feel that way?
yeah, that feels right. I would be lying if it was like a strategy though. Like it just happened, but like
Yeah.
that's right. Like it's like one of my friends hit up Liz, and that's why we're friends, and that's why I'm hanging out with like older people now. Like
Yeah.
and like it's you're right though. It was weird. Even before that, I was doing other things in the city, so I've always been the youngest person in the room with a business.
Yeah.
Well, I was like got used to like being young, and then just like being observant, not really asking questions, but just listening and hearing how people like interact and like take things I like, take things I didn't like. But you're right. Like open the restaurant, like people definitely started like putting me on this like high pedestal. I'm like, bro, like it's not that crazy. Like a couple Googles, an LLC, you know what I'm saying? A couple like accounts and you can have a restaurant too. Like it's not that like hard. But in hindsight at 23, now looking back, I'm like, okay, I had some balls for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I definitely have some
Yeah.
balls. No, but you're right. Like but I do see the value in spending time with people who are far ahead of you, and I do see the value, especially with helping other people. Because while you're helping people, you get like you guys said, you get that nice feeling, but you also get to learn things too. I feel like I think you sharpen your like craft and your tool. Like, oh wait, that's a way better way of doing that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then having that support, like especially being friends with Liz, who's like ahead of me and also next to me in some situations, like it's good to have like a partner or people you can talk to where you don't sound crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, like I like try to like I'm on the phone with my friend like, dude, I don't understand anything you're talking about. Like I finished work before, you know what I'm saying? And I'm
For
like,
sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and it's funny because this will probably be interesting to you, Anthony, and you can assess it. Well, so a couple things. When Vince and I met, part of the reason why I think I was probably open to him having, becoming such a big part of my life is I had set an intention that year. Good thing I didn't set too many intentions for 2020 because those would have all kind of fallen out. But in 2019, I was riding high and I had an intention to surround myself with people that vibrate at the same high frequency as me because I know that I'm like crazy and I vibrate high. I just do, you guys. I'm ambitious. I'm energetic. I'm optimistic. I'm enthusiastic. I'm easily excited. And I believe that's also the reason for all of my success in personal and professional areas of my life, or even just weight loss success. And so what I found is that I do need to have my cup filled. I can't just be vibing high for other people. So a lot of people will come to me, they want help with their business, with their personal lives, even like relationship. I've been with my husband for this year will be 15 years of marriage, 20 years together. So a lot of people come to me for personal relationship advice, for business advice, parenting advice, which I laugh now because no one's winning any parenting awards right now. But I realized that I found myself trying to vibrate for other people because, I'm like, life's fucking amazing. Let's all be thrilled. But not everyone is naturally like that. Not everyone, you know what I'm saying? Not everybody is naturally skewed in that direction. And my tendency is wanting to like get them that because I'm so happy with my life because of the work I've done. I was like an overweight. I mean, Anthony, we worked out at the high school a couple of weeks ago. I graduated high school at 223 pounds. My life is very different now, and it's so much better now at 39 than it was at 18 when I graduated. So I want to like push that out to everyone and get them on the same page. And I'm learning that you cannot do that. You can't force people to want to work out. You can't force people to want to eat healthy. You can't force people to want to do X, Y, and Z to be in a good relationship. Yeah. You can't force people to do X, Y, and Z to build an online successful business. So it was better for me just to find people that naturally vibrate at a high level like I do, so I don't have to vibrate for them. Cha-ching. Yeah, so that's where I met Vince, which to your point, on paper, you guys, well, first of all, when I met Vince, he was like 19, 20. But when we really became good friends, he was only 22. So on paper, I remember even just telling my friends who I was hanging out with all the time, had to have them meet him because I can't just be, you know what I'm saying? So
I was like 19-year-old kid, right. On the other side of away from your husband and kids. That seems kind of weird, don't you think?
Literally. Like driving, 40 minutes round trip to go see him all the time at his restaurant. So I had to have people meet him because to your point, Anthony, I think a lot of people count people out by their age without even hearing anything else. Yep. Or without even wanting to take the call, take the meeting. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's to your point, ironically though, Vince is definitely, I feel like, more on my level in so many areas than most people my age are. And that's why we became fast friends.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I think also like on the other side of it, if you're like, let's say you're coming from like where I come from, where you're just trying to like continue to just like climb the ladder, right? Let's say you don't have anything, like make those bets and take those risks with your outside of your circle. I think for like me, it's easy business wise, but it was hard like with friendships because it's like the survivor's guilt. You don't want to leave people in your tribe. You don't want to move on. And then like, when you start like thinking about it, like when you take you out of the picture, how you affect everybody, it's not making it about yourself. You can start to see like, well, this actually helps everybody as long as I continue to grow because I will be happy. There's probably more opportunities that can happen for everybody. And it's just like, that's also part of it. Because I remember when I became friends with Liz, people were like, I got an earful, like from everybody about that, So like, yeah, I remember like it's a lot. So it's just like, and I was like, yo, why do you guys care so much about what I do in my life? But like, it is like, it's like, no, it was crazy, guys. Like I remember like,
how much people
remember
care.
the stepdad jokes, Liz?
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, you're a stepdad now. I'm like, what? Like
you're trying to be a stepdad. People are so quick. I think it's easier for people to understand it. Oh, they must be hooking up. Oh, okay, she's cheating on her husband. Oh, now it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And it's because they can't. I don't want to. Now this is where I get because I'm like I get like a little offensive about that. But it's like the for a small brain to make sense of it, they've got to like they can't even comprehend. And anyone that knows me personally never thought that. But on paper, and I think probably why Vince got it more than I got it.
And you do a better job at explaining.
Well,
so a lot of people are like also like, what? I didn't like, oh, here's my new friend. We've been talking. Like she's super smart. She's an entrepreneur. I'm just like on Instagram. in EGR hanging out with like Liz and her kids. You know what I'm saying? So people are like, bro, what? I didn't get no one like no script. I didn't introduce her to anybody. I was like, yeah, we're just like, yeah, that's like my homie.
Finally, I was like, Vince, your mother's in the restaurant. You need to introduce us. Like, I'm here all the time. Like, hello. Like, you gotta like do an introduction. Like, that's so funny.
Hilarious.
Good times. Good times. All right.
Now we have a podcast.
Exactly. Okay, next topic. This is really good, especially right now. Holy cow, I could use some tips on this, especially in the homeschooling world. Managing chaos, processes and tools. And maybe I can share, like if people want to hear some tips about it with homeschooling world, because I'm sure yours is more on the business front, but whatever. I want to hear everything you have to say about managing chaos, Anthony.
Okay, so I use a method. It's called sprints. Sprint modeling. It's taken from the software world, but you don't have to be building software in order to use it. I use it for like my personal life and also professionally. So I think I have ADD, like unofficially, but I just get easily distracted because I'm interested in so many things. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna do that. Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna do that.
I think you're just an NFP. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Like,
so like I have to counteract that in order to like still move forward without missing things, because that's also one of my biggest pet peeves. Like if I promise somebody a paperclip, I want to give them a paperclip. If I promise somebody the moon, like I'm gonna try to get them the moon, right? So for me, I use a lot of sticky notes. I have a board. So on the left side, if you picture a board in 3 columns, on the left column, I have it split up into kind of all my buckets of where I spend my time. So nonprofits that I volunteer for, day job, side projects, and then I even have a bucket for calls and then like that I want to make and people I want to catch up with, and then I have other category for like everything else. And what I'll do is I'll create kind of like a backlog. So this is, I'll put a sticky note on like, okay, I remember I need to do this. That goes up there and you fill that backlog. So every 2 weeks, you plan out what you think you can take on.
And you think you can do a million things in 2 weeks.
Well, you learn a lot. Yeah, at first, now I've started to learn myself a little bit better. So what you have in that second column is you have it split up into 2 halves. So the top half is week number 1 and the bottom half is week number 2. So you take from that backlog that's on your left of all those tasks within your buckets, and then you put on what you think you need to prioritize and what you think you can actually accomplish within that first week. And then you move on to the second week. Okay, what do I think I can do in the second week? And now you kind of have a 2-week view as far as what you want to accomplish. Now, granted, every day you're going to be moving things into your backlog. And so for me, I carry around a notepad and then I'll write things down. And during calls, wherever I'm at. And then at night, when I get home, I put those onto a sticky note and then consider adding them in or putting them in the backlog. And for me, what you then do with the other third column is completed bucket. So that's still split into halves. So it's just like the middle column. And every day when you get done, you take those sticky notes over and you put them into completed, whatever you completed for that day. Now, to further on this, what I do is before I leave, well, now I don't leave my place, but when I did,
rest in peace, leaving the house.
yeah, when I did, if I was going to the office or coffee shop or whatever I was going to do, I would take whatever sticky notes from that week that I thought I was going to accomplish that day. And so whenever I go and post up anywhere, I put those sticky notes right in front of my computer or book or whatever I have. And so whenever I want to get distracted, those are right there in front of me. So it reminds me, no.
Coffee shop, you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's smart. I bet that gets all the girls too. Let's just be real. Like they see this cool like spreadsheet. Oh, it's like it's like bringing a dog to the park.
What do you do?
Look at this guy. He's got a lot of sticky notes.
He's like, information at Spectrum. I run Ironmans. I have a lot of projects on that side. Like,
yeah, right.
I'm color coded. Like, got this. I can teach you some tips too.
We're on your chick, Anthony. Ladies, if you see the post-it note, they probably just say like apple, butterfly, carrot. They're just like fake words. Just
yeah, right. Fake it till you make it, So
she's gonna like try it tomorrow. It's like fake, like stars, heart. Just
yeah. on my story and be like, yo, guys.
Yeah, I have 50 sticky notes out. Like, yo, this is just what I'm working on today.
No, that's
Yeah.
really smart because then that way too, you do have a tendency to like get distracted and want to like pause, and that kind of reels you back in.
Yeah, and so every 2 weeks you kind of just, you go through and look at what you accomplished for that week. It gives you a sense of fulfillment, like, okay, cool, like I'm accomplishing things, but also helps to make sure you don't miss on things as well. And everything, you can kind of exaggerate it until you get a feel of really what works for you. But I do that with like my teams. I do that personally. It's really helped out over the last few years doing that. So I recommend it. And if you need reference points, you can YouTube like sprint boards, sprint planning. It's related to software, but you'll get the gist.
We can put a link to that in the show notes too. So, question for you.